Welcome to Where Wendy Creates. Today we are using this panel to make this beautiful quilt with 4 patch blocks and borders. Hello. Today we are making, like I said, the wall hanging quilt. And when you cut a wall hanging or any panel, you can't cut it just in half with a rotary blade. You cut it right on the marking. So this is one we have to do by hand or carefully line it up before we use the rotary. So we're going to go ahead and trim this one out. So let's use this huge panel and turn it into a quilt. And in order to use a panel and make it look like a quilt, you've got to add to it or do different things to really make this come to life. And I will tell you, this panel is gorgeous. It's absolutely stunning. I am in awe. It is a wall made for a wall hanging, but we're turning it into a quilt, and we've got to find fabrics that match. So one clue is we can take this to the quilt store and get any colors that matches this, can go into our quilt. And this is Who Gives a Hoot wall hanging. Doesn't tell me who it's by or anything else, but this came out of Sylvia's stash. So I am so excited, and let's bring this to life. Okay, so I've picked 2 colors. We need to pick some more, but first of all, I want to find out how large the wall hanging is so we can decide how much fabric we need to purchase. So this wall hanging already is approximately 34 inches by 44 inches. So, let's plan it out. So planning this out, if we already have a panel that is 36 inches by roughly 44 inches, and we want at least a twin, but I'm thinking maybe a queen or a king, then we can more than double this in both directions and create a nice pattern with the owl colors. Okay, so along with our panel, I've selected this color, which has the different browns and the blues to blend fairly well, I think, with it. I have this green to match the green. The blue is matching here. The light brown, just pull in really all of the owls, the background, the branches, and the darker brown leaves I thought would go very well as well. So these are the colors we are looking at, and now to go ahead and start cutting up for our pattern. How are we going to make a pattern? I'm thinking 4 patches, so I'm going to use the top 2 as 4 patches, and then the next 2 as 4 patches. This one's going to be a border, and we're going to see how it goes, and I'm aiming at a queen size quilt. So for this corner color, I am cutting 8 5.5 inch strips. And we are cutting 5-inch strips of each of our 4 fabrics that we're going to use to make our 4 patches. Another trick of the trade, my friends, we are cutting out a bunch of 5-inch strips, and so we're using this line right here. And as you see, if I put it across the fabric, if it was bowed or bowed up on the ends, all I have to do is pull it a little bit just by running my fingers over top of it and line it up, because we always want to be able to cut on straight lines. So you want to line a line up here on the side and a line across. You always want to be able to line something up on two sides so that you have a perfect cut. And just by taking the fabric and pulling it with your fingers, you can adjust it slightly one direction or the other. Like if it was too low here, I just press like this and you see it pulls up. So it is easy to adjust as long as you have a straight edge to start with. Okay, so on our calculations and our papers, we've decided to do 2 4-patches, a 2.5-inch strip around the panel, which I think we're going to do in black, and then a 5.5-inch strip to go around the sides. So these are 5-inch squares. So you've got 5, 10, 15, 20 minus 5, 10, yeah, 20 minus the 1/4 inch on both sides on each of the 4. So you take that off, it's a 2 inches less. So we're going to put this on both sides, well, all 4 sides to create our queen size quilt, which is roughly 86 by 94. Okay, so now looking at our fabrics, we have them all cut out and ready to be sewn into our 4 patches. And now, again, we've got to decide, are we happy with the color choices that we decided to do? I think we're going to do these 2 together, then we'll do these 2 together. Very exciting. And we've got a beautiful way to put them together. So instead of cutting all of these into 5-inch squares, my friends, we are going to sew the strip and then cut the strips into 5-inch squares and go from there. Yay! And we're going to take our first 2 strips of 5-inch fabrics, put them right sides together, and we're going to sew them across width of fabric. And then we'll trim them up into our 5-inch measurements a little bit later on. So we are just going to line this up and sew it through. If you're not pinning your fabric together, you need to keep adjusting it. Make sure it's right on track. And once we finished one, we can just start the next and keep on chain stitching. You don't see, but I have my hands here and I'm holding on either side and I'm watching the sides to make sure that the fabrics are completely aligned up. And readjusting as I go. And I'm holding on either side, making sure I'm perfectly lined up on both sides. And I'm going to sew all of my strips just like that. Right sides together. Doesn't matter which side is up, which side is down, as long as right sides are together. Okay, last strip, and then we're going over to the ironing board, and we're going to press all of these open. And then to the cutting board, and we're going to cut these into 5-inch strips, and then make our 4 patches. I'm so excited. And yes, I do think all of this looks like candy to me, y'all. It just looks like ribbon, holiday ribbon candy. I love it. So hit that comment button. Tell me what you're working on. Have you ever done 4 patches like this? Or do you have a trick that works well for you when you do 4 patches? And I would love, if you haven't yet, give me the like button. Click on that like button. Give me a thumbs up. I'd be so happy. Okay, and off to the ironing board we go. And we are ironing all of our green seams towards our brown. And we're going to do this for all of our rows. And I'm just going to press each of our 5-inch strips, and then we're going to open them up and press our seams. I want to press my seams towards the darker color so that if, which I know they won't on this, but if the seams were ever to show through, they would not, because the darker color would block them. And to take a look at our tools, we have a 6-inch ruler by 24 inches. So we're going to take this 6-inch ruler, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to trim off the end, and then we're going to put the 1 inch off and then start cutting our 5 inches. And we have our 5-inch and 1 inch off. Press firmly, make sure our fingers are back from the ends. We're going to pull over our strips. 1 inch off, make sure we're lined up. We're lined up. We're lined up, and we're lined up. And we cut our 5-inch strips. And then for our blocks, we're going to make some magic happen. Take them over to the sewing machine, turn them around backwards, and make some beautiful blocks. And hold on to your scraps because we have scrappy projects and these are going to go great in that new scrappy quilt. And we're making our green and our brown row just the same using our 6-inch ruler. We are lining up and then making our cut, putting it into a stack, moving the ruler up, lining everything up again, and making our cut. So we are going to do this until we have all of our strips done accordingly. And then the fun begins. We will be sewing again. Don't you love to sew? If you haven't already, my friends, hit that comment button. Let me know what project you're working on. I would love to hear about your projects. When is the last time you did a 4-patch block? Now, my friends, this is a very, very beginner block, but if you match the 4-patch in to a lot of your other quilt blocks, they turn out so nice. I'm so excited about this project. And remember, a 9-patch block is one of the oldest blocks we have. So how long ago do you think they came up with the 4-patch block? If you know, hit that comment button. I would love to know as well. Teach me a little bit of history about our quilt blocks. That would be pretty exciting. And I have several more stacks of these to cut out, and then we are going to sit down at the sewing machine and sew them. All right, so we have our blocks cut out, and now we're ready to make our 4 patches. So let's go on over to the sewing table and get sewing. So we want to take our blocks and we want to put them right sides together. So we've got a brown and a green, and then I'm going to take a brown and a green. I'm going to match the seams up perfectly. And because we always made our seams go towards the brown, they're going to match up perfectly. So here is where we can stick a needle right in that seam, but I am taking it straight to the sewing machine, so we are going to sew it right now, holding on to it. If you find that doesn't work or you want to match more than one at a time, please, please, please use a pen. And I still have my 2 thumbs right on where that seam goes together. And we're going to turn on our sewing machine and begin stitching. Now I'm going to reevaluate, make sure that's perfectly lined up, perfectly on that seam. And we have our fabrics lined up. We're going to go ahead and sew. And let's match one more. And then we'll readjust the camera so you can see a little bit closer how we're doing it. So I'm taking my brown and my green face to face. We're putting our seams together right here. And I'm going to put my fingers right on there and not let go, so I know I'm straight. To it until it completely goes under the needle. Then we'll grab a couple more and then readjust our camera so you can see it from a different angle. I'm putting them together. I have the seams together. It goes towards the brown, it goes towards the brown, nestles perfectly in there, holding my finger on it, and we will sew. hit the like button. Now, if you're on your television, my friends, you can hit that circle button. If you have a circle button, and on the circle, not the very center, but the circle, just push it on the up to make it go up, and then make it go over, and you can see the thumb there. And if you give me a like and a subscribe, I would be most appreciative. I would love to have you along for all of my sewing fun. And I try to put out 2 sewing videos every single week. So in the last few weeks, I've done the bowl cozy tutorial. I have done the potato warmer, the tortilla warmer, all of matching colors. And I'd love to know what you thought of those. And do you prefer quilting videos, or do you prefer making things? And is there anything out there made of fabric that you would like to make that maybe I already have made and I know how to make, and maybe I can do a tutorial for you? I would love to hear about that. So hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, a like, and then in the comments, tell me what you would like me to make if I know how to make it. And remember, I have Sylvia, and Sylvia knows a lot about sewing, a lot more than I do about sewing, and maybe she and I could do the tutorial together. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you'd like to see. Upcoming tutorials is going to be a dinosaur quilt. We're going to make a Christmas quilt, a Halloween quilt. I know it's out of season, but the best time to make them is out of season. I also want to make an Easter egg quilt. And with that one, we're going to make a jelly roll quilt. And then from the jelly roll, we're actually going to cut out large Easter eggs and make raw edge Easter eggs on a quilt. So I'm very excited about that as well. Also, I'll be doing another bag tutorial, a neck bone pillow tutorial, a popcorn bag, because we all love our popcorn. We love our movies. So I'm very excited about them, but let me know what you would like to see. And you know I am always making another quilt. So I might just open the fabric closet door and see some fabric and then get inspired and come up with some thoughts. Sylvia will put all the numbers together for me. And we'll make a quilt for you. And if you always press your fabric towards the same color, your seams will always nicely lay together. we're taking all of our 4 patches and we're opening them up and pressing them. And we're going to do this to each and every one of them. Notice that I do have steam to make it a quicker, easier job. Matching our blocks together, making sure we're lined up. And sewing 2 of the 4 patches together. And we are chain stitching these just like we did to put the blocks together. Trim off any excess threads you find. That was a surprise. Matching up our seams, matching up our corners. And we're just going to lay out all of our blocks. We'll go over to the ironing board and open these up and press them flat. And the seam we're going to press is this one in the back to make sure everything is laying straight. But I like to lay everything straight ahead of time. That way, if I end up setting on something on top of them, getting carried away, doing something else, I am not wrinkling them in the process. And we've just sewn 2 of these together, so they're all piles of 2 4 patches put together, and we're going to have rows of these 4 patches. We're going to have a row of this, a row of the green. So they are going to be laying side by side each other, going around our panel. Okay, so I think we're going to set aside our 4 patches, and we're going to go ahead and work on the black binding around the outer part of our panel. So I'm going to go ahead and take a strip for each of the sides. The sides are, of course, longer, and I've laid it out, and I see that, yes, my measurement was correct. I can go ahead and use a full strip on each of the sides, and then we'll do the 2 tops and the bottom and be all set. So let's go over to the sewing machine. And we're going to lay our 2 right sides together and do our first border around our panel, which is going to be these black 2.5-inch stripes. Strips. And that turned out
to be the perfect size. Okay, my friends, let's do the other side.
Once you've sewn your borders onto each of the two sides, we're going to go ahead and trim them off so that when we put on our top and our bottom, it's going to cover our rows fully and going to be no seams on the top or the bottom of our panel. And make sure in between each step you are pressing your seams so you don't run into the issue of having multiple seams in the same place going all different directions. So make sure step by step we cut, we press, we cut, we press, we cut, we press. And back to the sewing machine we go. Okay, now we're doing the border on the bottom. We've already finished the two sides and the top. And I just wanted to show you real quick how we're putting this across the bottom. We're making sure we're lined up perfectly. Okay, so we are making sure we're even. And we're coming up on the part that I wanted to show you. So bear with me 1 second. Okay, so now we're coming together, and how the seam is up here, it's going to be on the side and not on the bottom. We're going to have a flat row across the bottom. And again, you can choose to do it any way. You can do it every other one, but I always like to have the top and the bottom with a smooth strip with no seams, and my seams are on the side when I have to have seams on a border. Okay, and we're pressing down our next border. And then we'll take it back to the cutting board, trim off the excess sides. And then we'll add our border on this side, which are these pieces that we just sewed together. And we have trimmed our sides. So we have two borders on the top, two borders on the bottom, and now we're going to do our brown borders on both of the sides. And now we are putting our side border on. So I have my brown strip that I've sewn two together to make our side length that we need. And we're going to put the whole quilt on top because we did have the seam. So you always want your seams, the majority of your seams, to be up, so you make sure that they lay properly when you're sewing. You want to make sure those two pieces are completely side by side the entire way, and that you're lined up on your 1/4 inch seam. And after you go about 6 inches, readjust and keep going. So my friends, what are you sewing on? Are you sewing on anything this January, February? Have you been working on any new projects, or plan to pick up any projects in February or March, where you escape and grab some beautiful fabric and start making wonderful creations? And what do you make? Do you make pillows, quilts, kitchen stuff? What kind of videos would you like to see me make? I would love to hear from you, even if it's what flavored drink you like to drink when you're sewing. I have sitting next to me some Earl Grey iced tea. It is chilly outside, so I might swip over to hot tea a little bit later on. But I've had my morning coffee, and I'm drinking my Earl Grey iced tea. and I'm enjoying sewing my stitches, trying to make sure that I'm lined up perfectly as I go so I don't have to pull any stitches. And sometimes it's easy for these things to get away from you. So reevaluate, realign often. When we come up on our seams, that's why I wanted this on top, because this one is flat and this one has my seams. So that's why I wanted that piece on top. And when you trim it, make sure you're using your rulers and line up 2 edges so that you know that your corners are going to be true corners. They're not going to be buckled in or buckled out. And hold it all the way to the end, and that way you're not making your seams go out or in and giving that extra bulk as well. We want it to be flat, 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 flat. All right, and let's go ahead and take this to the cutting board, and then we'll flip it around and do the other side. And for cutting, what I said is you need it straight on 2 lines. So we have it on this line, we have it on this line going up the quilt, and this is definitely a long enough strip that it's going to go back into strips for either the outside border or for a dinosaur quilt that we're doing real soon. So again, 2 lines at least to make sure it's lined up all the way so that you have perfectly square corners. And just to see our progression, I'm going to hold this up so you can see, hopefully, the corners and everything on the quilt. We're going to take it over to the ironing board, and then we're going to put our 4-patch blocks together so that you can see our 4-patch blocks. I am very excited. I hope you're enjoying this tutorial as we are sewing our 4 patches together. I'm so excited. And we've got 2 sewn together, and we're sewing 2 more to it. We're making our side rows for our quilt. And as we do this, we want all of our corners and our seams to perfectly line up. So we're going to hold that, making sure they lay the way they're properly supposed to lay. Corners are together, and we're not pulling or torquing the fabric. And we are going to chain stitch 2 more of these together, and then we're going to take them out and add 2 to the end. Oops, so sorry, my friends. Didn't mean to bump you. Kind of tough sometimes looking through a camera to be able to share what I'm doing. Looks like I trimmed it, or seam is short. One more together. Just keep on sewing your blocks together. We want to have at least, or we want to have exactly 7 pieces put together. Now we know that we need 7 to go down the quilt, 7 4-patch blocks. I'm putting the 2 patches together, so we have 7 4 patches. And then we're putting them together with the other 7 4 patches. this is going to go down one side of the owls. Then we're going to do the same 7 and 7 to go down the other side. We're going to add one additional border, which we'll walk through, and then we can put on the top and the bottom of these squares. So we are putting these beautiful 4 patches together, and what we have to do here is, just like our other seams, we've got to make sure we're right on the line and that our seams go together as best we can. Now again, if we used a different 1/4 inch seam, they're not going to line up perfectly. But we want them as close as possible that we can do. And I like to lay these in my lap so that they're not pulling or torquing or getting pinched in between the table and the piece that I'm sewing, because we don't want any unnecessary torquing or pulling as we're going along. Take these over to the ironing board, press the seams, and then connect them to our owl once we're done. And now we have our 2 rows of 4 patches sewn together. We are going to go ahead and put these on the side of the owl with the boldest of the green and the brown close, and that way the blue on the outside is going to pull in the blue from the inside of the owl. And since we're now working with much heavier pieces, we want to make sure that we take it and we roll it up in our lap, and we have it stretched out over the table, so we're not getting too much bulk or torque or pull, distorting the fabrics, so that they go together nice and easy. And again, I have the seam side up because the bulk of the seams are on this part. That way I can make sure that they're always laying flat instead of twisting up and being more of a mess for the long arm needle and smoothness of the finished quilt. Okay, so now we have 9 blocks sewn together and 9 blocks sewn together. And then we have our blue and brown. We have 9 4 patches sewn together and 9 4 patches sewn together. So now we are ready to remove everything from the table except for 1 9 patch of the blue and brown and 1 9 patch of the green and brown. And we are going to sew them together, and then 1 row is going to go across the top, 1 row is going to go across the bottom. And we've laid our strips together face to face, so now we can grab them and put them under the sewing machine. And our strips on the sides that we've already done are looking very nice, so I'm very, very happy about those. We've got our owls in the center. We need to do our top and our bottom now. Looking very, very, very nice. I do like those together. I was kind of wondering if they were too bright or if they blended well enough. I am absolutely loving this. I hope you are too. Hit that comment button. Let me know what you think of our owls so far. And now we just need an outside border and our owl quilt is finished. And I'm thinking about going with the solid or the blue here to go on the outside to lock it all in and close it up and make it look pretty. And then we'll probably go with maybe this brown for the binding, with the browns and the blues in it for the binding. What do you think? One more round. I am so excited. This is looking so fantastic. I am very, very excited about how this is turning out. Yay! And we are putting our final border around our quilt. Very, very excited about that. And we've decided to go with the blue. I think that's going to tie everything in very well. Kind of giving it a finished edge. Oopsie, sorry about that. All right, so what will our next project be? Hit in the comments, let me know what you think. I'm thinking dinosaur quilts. I'm thinking using some of that Christmas fabric that we bought on sale after the holidays. I'm thinking maybe even neck bone pillows. Maybe it's time to do a neck bone pillow video. I know I use mine every single night. And if you have any discomfort sleeping or driving or where to put your elbows at any time in your favorite chair, neck bone pillows are great armrests. They're great ergonomic pillows for reading, for laying, for propping your book up. They are wonderful. And I haven't been in the hammock lately, but they're great in the hammock as well. That goes up. So let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear in the comment section what video you would like me to work on next. I also have an underwater quilt that I want to do. I still have Halloween fabric to work on another Halloween quilt. It's nice to get your holiday quilts done ahead of time. And I've been saying I was going to do that Easter egg quilt for a long time now. And I have not planned one, but I'm thinking for a theme on a quilt, I need to do one that is just dominant boy and one that is just dominant girl. So it is is nice to have almost a generic quilt on hand if someone is sick, or you want to give a nice friendly gift. A quilt is a great idea. It's a tremendous quilt. And what you can do is have the primary colors, and then it will be at least half done when you want to possibly gift it to somebody. So that is a great idea to go ahead and have on hand if you have some extra time and a few extra dollars. It's a great thing to make a quilt to give as a gift. Nothing says I care more than your time, your love, and your time making something that is so special. And my friends, it's also possible that you can make it into a memory quilt. I will show you a tutorial upcoming how we put photographs on a quilt. Putting a photograph on a quilt is a wonderful way to personalize a quilt. So it is a tremendous idea to consider the ability, having it on hand, of putting a photo on a quilt, or even using your photo with a label on the back of a quilt that you're giving to somebody. And that way, if it does last generations, they will know who it came from. And when I say they, I mean anyone in the future. And again, we are just finishing up. Oh, and look what I'm doing. I am doing the seams flat down, and that we don't want to do. I am being conscious of where they're laying, how they're laying, to make sure they do. But I haven't been sharing that with you. So I apologize. The flat fabric should be on the bottom so that your seams are face up and you can take care of and remember how the placement goes, to where you're not sewing them in the wrong direction. You caught me. Okay, and we're almost done with our second row. We're going to flip it over momentarily and do the other two rows. I just have to measure them to make sure my two width of fabric, length of fabrics sewn together is long enough. So we're going to measure those before we put them on the sides. I think I have to add a little to them. And yes, 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 my friends, if a pattern existed, if, which it does not, if a pattern existed, all my measurements would be there, and I would cut my borders and my bindings and everything to that measurement. But we are having fun and sewing and just making a simple panel quilt that is more on the earthy and the watery tones. And why? Because I wanted to. It'll fit the beds in my guest room. And it's a perfect earthy addition if and I want it somewhere else, just to snuggle it. All right, we are on the home run now. Oh, can't have it pull in. Oops, sorry. Trying to get everything lined up here. Got you caught in my, between my tripod and my table. And again, it's a large quilt. We have, it's an oversized double. So, not sure I can call it a queen. I got to remeasure it and see how we turned out. I think I might add one more border if I need to, if I'm really close to making it a queen. I don't know. I always like larger size bedding, and that way you can always snuggle more. You can pull it up over your shoulders. Never worry about it coming off your feet. Tuck your feet in. And I have been known to drag quite a few quilts out into the living room. And when I have company and it's cold out, I have been known to grab several quilts and cover up my guests outside by the fireplace, fire pit. And that means, yes, that means I'm washing them that much more often. So that's why you've got to make sure your threads are close. Your seams are all the right directions. So you can have your quilt be washed over and over and over and over and loved and used. And never worry about that extra beading that washing it that much more often is going to give it. Quilts are made to be used. Where's my seams? All right, let me trim this off, hold it up, and we get to see our finished quilt. And we have our owl quilt completed. Yay! All right. We are looking at my finished quilt with my panel on the inside. So my friends, it is easy quilt to make a quilt with panels and then just use borders. Simple 4 patches are easy borders, and you can create a beautiful finished quilt. I've just got a few threads to trim, and it looks like I need to repress his wing here. Somehow I wrinkled it, but I am excited. And yes, my friends, this is a small queen, so I am, well, it overlaps the sides. I am very happy with this. I hope that you have enjoyed this journey creating this quilt. And now we are going to have an upcoming quilting video on putting it on the long arm and choosing a pattern, and how a long arm quilter, Sylvia, chooses quilting patterns. And what, oh what, are we going to do with the owls? Maybe an overall feather panel, maybe some swirls that look like eye circles. I don't know, but I am very pleased. I think our 4 patches came out great. I love how the blue goes right into the blue on the edge on the border, and it just looks real good. This brown tree, watery looking. I was worried about it going upright and sideways, but I think that looks divine. What do you think, my friends? Hit that comment button. I would love to know. And I want you right here back with me for my next quilting tutorial. So hit that subscribe button, and I cannot wait to have you on the journey with me. Have a great day, my friends. Happy sewing!